Hi, friend. So, I just wanted to share with you today some things that I have been thinking about. We're living in some crazy times here, especially in the US, and I think all across the world. We're in February of 2025, and there's some crazy things going on. And so, I wanted to just share with you not about the specific things that are happening in this country, the US, and around the world. But what I wanted to do is what I love doing is helping you know how can we process this? What is the way that we can process these emotions and not get stuck in depression and anxiety and learned helplessness. So that's what we're going to talk about today. All right. Thanks so much for being here. I'm Kathy Wiens, owner of Kathy Wiens Coaching. I'm a trauma recovery and women's empowerment coach. But mostly, I am a 65-year-old woman on a mission to help other women of all ages to process their feelings, to understand what's going on inside of them, but most importantly, to empower you to see your strengths and your gifts. And that's what we're going to talk about today. How do we process all the, craziness that's happening today in our life? And so, how do we not get stuck in hopelessness and helplessness? All right. So the first thing that I wanted to share about this is something that happened to me recently. So somebody contacted me and they were really frustrated about the state of our world. And, sometimes I can kind of go into coaching mode and, oh, let's fix this. And I started to do that with this person. But they told me that really that wasn't what they needed. And I recognized that I needed to take a different approach with them. And so what I realized in this conversation was that they needed to vent. They were angry, they were upset, and that is okay. It is okay for us to be angry and upset when we are going through a difficult or traumatic situation. It's okay for us to feel sad during that time. It's okay for us to feel kind of depressed. We need to accept that these are the feelings that we have for ourselves and if we're visiting with other people. And so the mistake that I made is that I moved too quickly into how do we fix this? Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about that today, but I really want to emphasize that we need to accept for ourselves that it's okay to be angry. It's okay to feel sad about things that are happening in our life that are just really difficult to manage, traumatic things that are happening. And, there's just some crazy stuff going on in the world today. And so as we process that, or maybe it's something else that you're processing, this works on many things, to not tell yourself, oh, I got to move on. I got to, do this. But give yourself time to process the trauma, to process the emotion. And it is good to reach out to other people, like this person did with me. I'm so glad that they reached out and sought support from me. Because when we are in things together, that helps to lessen the load, and that's a good thing. So together we can share that we're going through a really difficult time in this world, or maybe you're going through a difficult time in your life, but we can share that with other people and get their support. So we feel empowered when we are truly heard and our feelings are validated. This is why venting, sharing our feelings, sharing our anger and frustration and our sadness and anxiety, this is why that helps to move us along the healing journey. If we stay in that anger, that frustration, that depression, if we stay there long term, that's not healthy for us either. And so the first step is to recognize it is okay to have these feelings. And if someone comes to us, it's okay to just listen to their feelings, to let them vent, to let them share their anger. But then we also need to move on so that we don't harm ourselves because of this difficult situation or this trauma that we're experiencing. And so I've developed a 4-part process that I call Well, it's AAPA. That's not a good acronym for that. It's just AAPA. And that stands for Acceptance, Awareness, Perspective, and Action. So the first one is acceptance. And I want to say here really quickly that acceptance in no way ever means that what happened was okay. That is not acceptance. But it is important to recognize that what happened, happened. And while some things can be changed and we can do certain things, there are some parts of the trauma of this difficult situation that we simply cannot change. So I was sharing earlier about kind of the craziness in our world today, in the United States and in the rest of the world. There are certain things about that situation we just can't change. It is what it is. Now, there are some things we can do, and we'll get to that in a little bit, but some things just are the way they are. And so not putting a lot of energy into fantasizing and wishing and, oh, hoping, why wasn't it different? Why wasn't there a different outcome? Why are these people in place? Not worrying about that, not um, dwelling on those things, because that doesn't help. We need to accept that what is. And then we also need to accept our feelings about it, because the reality is we just feel certain things. And if we try and push ourselves too quickly out of those feelings, that's not helpful. We need to process those feelings. Okay? So that's first acceptance. And again, acceptance is so important because we can waste a lot of energy on wishing things were different. And that, again, it just wastes energy. So we just need to accept the way things are and the way we feel about it. Okay? Got some construction going on here. You might hear some hammering. The next A is awareness. So thinking about, why do I feel this way? Why is this bothering me? Why is it so traumatic? Now, there may be very obvious things on the surface. But in my life and the things that I have been through, I recognize that when my anger, my frustration, my sadness is really fired up, oftentimes there's something from my past that might be fueling it. And so being aware of why this bothers you so much, look at your life, maybe look at your values. What's happening in this situation that goes against what you really value in life? Or what is happening in this situation that links back to something that you experienced in life? And for me, when I think about the current situation in the United States, and I think about the way people, very vulnerable people, may be hurt, especially women and children. Now, I have worked with children for, most of my life. I was a teacher, an early childhood educator for many years. That was my first career. And now I'm a women's trauma and recovery coach. So women and children are very important to me. That's something I value. But when I look under the surface, I recognize the programs that help vulnerable women and children in this country are important to me, because as a child, I was one of those children that needed those programs. For the first 10 years of my life, I lived in extreme poverty with my biological family until I was taken out and placed in foster care. That whole story is something for another video. But I know what it's like to not have food. I know now as an adult how much the medical aid that I got helped me, saved my life in many cases. And my biological mother would not have been able to pay for that. She needed that public assistance. I needed that public assistance. Regardless of what people thought of my mother and the things she was doing, I was the child in that situation that needed that help and that support. And that help and that support saved my life. The government agencies that stepped in to help me as a young child saved my life and helped me be at a place that I am today in my adult life. I'm doing very well. I'm a very healthy, contributing member of society. Okay, so that was the deeper reason why all this craziness that's going on in our world today was bothering me. So when you're in any kind of traumatic situation, think about, become aware, that's the second A, aware of why this bothers you so much. Dig a little bit deeper to figure it out, because that's just going to help you again in that healing journey. Okay, so the next word that I have in my AA PA is perspective. So when you become aware of why this is bothering you so much, think about, well, what can I do about it? What are some things that I can do today that will make the situation different or will help me as I process the situation, as I move on? So again, it might be something difficult or traumatic that's happening in your life. It might be the craziness that's happening in the world today. What is something that you can do? Okay, so think about that. Another thing with that is we don't want to get so overwhelmed by things we think we could do or we should do. If you're ever feeling that should in your thought process, then step back, because we can only do what we can do. And oftentimes we'll feel shamed or judged like we should be doing things, but recognize what you are able to do. And part of that is recognizing when you need to step back and say, you know, I need a break from this. I can't think about it anymore. Whether it's what's happening in our current world today, or if it's a traumatic thing that you've experienced. Maybe you just need to step back for a while too. So the P is for perspective. What can you do about it? And what do you need to do to take care of yourself in this moment? Okay? And then the last one is A, another A, action. What are the actions that you can take? And be really specific. You know, small actions done consistently really make big changes over time. And so, what are some small actions that you can take? And those will be different for anyone. So, I'm not going to give any examples of that because you know what your actions can be. So, that's what I wanted to share with you today, maybe to help you process if you're feeling kind of scared and, scared and anxious about what's happening today, or for any other trauma that you may be experiencing. All right, I hope this has helped you. And if you like this content, please like and subscribe to my channel. It just helps all of this get out to more people. Okay, thanks so much. Bye-bye.